My brother got the house, the beach house with the wraparound porch and the good memories baked into every wall. I got a storage unit, an actual storage unit, an actual storage unit, 12 by 20 feet on the edge of town off Route 9, sitting between a tire shop and a closed-down diner. My husband laughed when he heard it. Not a small laugh either. The kind that fills a room and doesn't leave. That was 6 months ago, before I understood what my grandfather actually gave me. My name is Audrey. I'm 31 years old. I grew up in a small town in central Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows what you inherited before you even open the lawyer's envelope. My grandfather, Grandpa Walt, died in February. Pancreatic cancer. He was gone in 11 weeks from diagnosis. There wasn't time to say half the things I needed to say, and then suddenly there was no time left at all. He and I had always been close. When I was 9, he taught me to fish at the creek behind his property. When I was 16 and didn't make the volleyball team, he drove 40 minutes just to take me to get pie at a diner on Highway 40 and told me that disappointment is a sign you cared, and caring is never wasted. He used to send me letters. Actual handwritten letters in envelopes with a stamp. Every birthday, every graduation, every time something hard happened. My brother thought it was old-fashioned. I saved every single one. His will was read at his attorney's office on a cold Tuesday in March. My husband came with me. He sat in the chair to my left, wearing the blazer he saves for things he considers important. My brother was already there when we arrived, sitting with his wife, both of them quiet in the way people get when they're trying to appear calm but aren't. The attorney, an older man with reading glasses he kept pushing up his nose, opened the file and began. The property at 114 Clearwater Lane, the beach house, would go to my brother, along with the contents of the primary checking account. My brother's wife squeezed his hand. He nodded like he was accepting something already decided. Then the attorney continued. The storage property at 2280 Route 9 will go to Audrey, along with the contents therein. Silence. My brother cleared his throat. My husband's jaw shifted. The attorney moved on to other items. The car, some furniture, a few sentimental pieces. But I had stopped hearing words. I was sitting inside a kind of stillness that felt like the world had just moved 1 inch to the left. On the drive home, my husband didn't even wait until we were out of the parking lot. A storage unit, he said. He said it the way you'd say, a parking ticket, flat. Dismissive. I didn't answer. He turned onto the highway. He kept going. He said that my grandfather clearly saw things clearly, that my brother had always been the one who stayed close, stayed involved, showed up. He didn't say the words out loud, but the shape of them was there. Maybe this is what you deserved. That night, after dinner, after I'd cleaned up and the kids were in bed, we have 2 daughters, 7 and 4. He said it directly. He said, your grandfather didn't think much of you, did he? I looked at him for a long moment. Then I went upstairs. The next morning, I drove out to Route 9. The storage unit was in a small facility, about 30 units total, the kind of place with a keypad gate and a gravel lot. My grandfather had owned the building outright. I hadn't known that. I thought I was inheriting the right to store boxes somewhere. I had no idea he owned the property itself. I used the key the attorney had given me. Unit 14. The door rolled up with a sound like a long exhale. It was fuller than I expected, not with junk. It was organized. Shelves along the left wall, plastic bins labeled in my grandfather's handwriting, a rolling cart, a shop light hanging from a hook, and in the center, a workbench with a flat wooden box sitting on top of it like it had been waiting. I walked to it slowly. The box wasn't locked. The latch lifted easily. Inside were folders, envelopes, and a yellow legal pad. There were also keys, several of them, all labeled on small paper tags in his handwriting. I sat down on a metal folding chair next to the workbench and started reading. The top folder had tax documents, property records. The storage facility had operating revenue. People were renting units. There were 12 active contracts. Monthly income had been going into an account I didn't know existed. My hands weren't entirely steady. The next envelope had correspondence, letters from a commercial real estate broker, dated over a span of 3 years. The most recent one was from October, 4 months before he died. The subject was a proposed rezoning corridor along the Route 9 stretch. The county had approved a mixed-use development plan. The broker's letter said the parcels in that zone were drawing strong interest from regional developers looking for commercial staging and storage access near the new corridor. I read it again. The Route 9 corridor was being developed. The county had approved commercial expansion the previous fall. My grandfather's property sat directly in the middle of that stretch. I kept reading. There were offer letters, 2 from developers, 1 from a commercial real estate investment group. All 3 had contacted my grandfather. One offer had been made 14 months ago. He had declined it. Another followed 8 months ago. Declined. A third, more recent letter referenced a preliminary interest to reopen discussions. He had said no to all of them. I sat back in the folding chair. The shop light buzzed softly overhead. Outside, a truck passed on the highway. Why would he keep saying no? I reached for the legal pad. It was at the bottom of the box, under everything else. The first page was a list of contact names and numbers. The second page was a rough sketch of the property lines. The third page had a note at the top, in his deliberate, slanted handwriting, Audrey. I stopped reading for a second. If you are reading this, then I hope you also read everything else first. The documents matter. The numbers matter. But I want you to understand why. I've watched you your whole life. You don't move fast. You think before you speak. You read before you decide. Those are not small things, even when people treat them like they are. This property is not what it looks like today. It is what it is going to be. I have been offered money for it 3 times. I said no, every time. Not because the offers weren't real, because they weren't enough, and because it was always meant to come to you. The county approved the rezoning in September. I have the documents in the blue folder. When the new Route 9 expansion is complete, this parcel will be in the center of a commercial zone. The access road they're building comes off the Route 9 interchange, and this property sits at that junction. Every developer who has contacted me knows this. They are waiting. You do not have to sell. You can lease, you can develop, you can hold and wait, but whatever you do, read everything. Understand it before you move. You were always the one who understood things quietly. I always trusted that about you. Grandpa Walt. I put the page down. I pressed my hands flat on the workbench. The metal was cold. He had planned this. He had watched this property appreciate in his mind for years, turned down 3 separate offers, and held on to it knowing I would be the one to open that box. I sat in that storage unit for a long time. When I finally stood up, I put everything back carefully, exactly as it had been. I locked the box. I pulled down the unit door. I sat in my car in the gravel lot and looked at Route 9 and tried to see it the way my grandfather had seen it. I didn't tell my husband that night, or the next day. I needed to verify first, because a letter is one thing. A note from someone you love tells you what they hoped. It doesn't always tell you what's true. The next morning, I called the county planning office. I gave them the parcel address. The woman on the other end typed for a moment and then came back. Yes, she said. The Route 9 commercial corridor rezoning was approved the previous September. Preliminary grading on the access road interchange was already in progress. I asked about projected timelines. She said the interchange was expected to be operational within 18 months. Commercial build permits along the corridor would open in the next quarter. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I sat in my car in the driveway and let that settle. That afternoon, I found the most recent contact information from the files and looked up the development group online. They were a mid-sized regional commercial developer, reputable, with several current projects in Ohio and Indiana. I sent a brief email from my personal address. I said I was the new owner of the Route 99 parcel. I said I understood there had been previous discussions. I asked if they were still interested in talking. I got a reply in 4 hours. We met the following Thursday. 2 of them came, a project manager named Kevin and a land acquisitions manager whose handshake was too firm and who kept looking at the property documents more than he looked at me. We walked a lot. Kevin measured the rear boundary by the chain link fence. They asked about utilities, access, current tenants. Then we sat in my car because the office in the facility was too small and too cold. Kevin opened the laptop. He pulled up a site map showing the proposed interchange and the parcels around it. He pointed to a blue marker. That's you, he said. The property sat directly adjacent to what would become the primary exit ramp of the new interchange. The land behind the units, a stretch I hadn't even fully walked yet, was the highest value portion. It had rear access to what would become a service road. We want to be direct with you, Kevin said. This has been on our radar for 2 years. Your grandfather was careful. He knew what he had. I said I was aware of that. Kevin typed something. He turned the laptop to show me a figure. It was more than my husband earned in 5 years. And Kevin said that was the opening conversation, not a final number. I told them I'd need time to review with my attorney. They said of course. Kevin gave me his card and said they were motivated to move when I was ready. That Sunday, I asked my brother and his wife to come for dinner. I asked my husband's mother to take the girls for the afternoon. I wanted the house quiet. My husband seemed pleased when he heard my brother was coming. He and my brother had always gotten along in that easy, uncomplicated way men sometimes do when they agree on things without saying much. My brother's wife made a comment when she came in about how I seemed different. Lighter, she said. I told her it was probably the weather. We ate. My brother talked about the beach house, about plans to repaint the porch, maybe rent it out in the summers. His wife talked about a renovation they were considering. My husband nodded along, relaxed the way he gets when he feels like a room is agreeing with him. After dessert, I excused myself. I walked to the hallway where I'd left my bag and took out a folder. I came back to the table and sat down. My husband looked at the folder. What's that? Some documents about the storage unit, I said. He smiled slightly, the kind that means he's about to say something gentle and condescending. Audrey, you don't have to. I opened the folder and slid it to the center of the table. My brother picked it up first. He read the top page, the development offer summary, and went very still. My husband took the next page. He looked at the number. Then he looked at it again. This is, he started. A preliminary offer, I said. The follow-up conversation is next week. My brother's wife leaned over to see. Her eyes moved across the page. This is for the storage unit, my brother said. For the land, I said. The Route 9 parcel sits at the new interchange junction. The county rezoned the corridor last fall. When the expansion is complete, that location becomes prime commercial access. Silence settled over the table. My husband set the page down slowly. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he said, Your grandfather knew this. He turned down 3 offers before he died, I said. He was waiting for the right time, and he left it to me. My brother looked up. He had an expression I hadn't seen on his face before, not quite regret, more like recalibration. He never mentioned any of this, my brother said quietly. No, I said. He didn't. My husband was still looking at the paper. He looked at me, the way he had not looked at me in a long time, not with pity or detachment, with something more careful. Audrey, he started. I have a meeting with my attorney on Tuesday, I said. I also have a meeting with the development group on Thursday. After that, I'll have a clearer picture of the options. I reached across and closed the folder. I just thought you should know, I said. The drive after dinner, after my brother and his wife left, after the girls came home and went to bed, was quiet in a different way than it had been quiet before. My husband loaded the dishwasher without being asked. He came and sat next to me on the couch. He said he was sorry, that he'd been hard on me, that what he'd said about my grandfather had been wrong. I nodded. I said thank you. But something had already shifted in me, somewhere around the time I sat in that folding chair in the storage unit reading my grandfather's handwriting. There's a difference between someone who tells you they were wrong after the numbers prove it, and someone who believes in you before they know. My grandfather believed in me before anyone could prove anything. The Thursday meeting went well. The number improved. Kevin brought a third person this time, a senior partner, and they brought coffee and a more detailed site analysis, and spoke to me the way people speak to someone whose time they don't want to waste. I told them I'd give them my answer by the end of the month. On my way out of that meeting, I called my attorney and confirmed I wanted to file for divorce. I'd thought about it for weeks. The storage unit had not caused it. My grandfather's note had not caused it. What they did was give me enough quiet and enough ground under my feet that I could finally hear what I already knew. My husband's reaction to the money was real. I don't doubt that. But I had spent years in a house with a man who looked at me and calculated worth, who heard that his wife had inherited something ordinary and laughed, who said the words he said in our kitchen and didn't take them back. I was not leaving because I was angry. I was leaving because I was clear. The filing was done on a Wednesday. He found out that afternoon. He didn't call me useless this time. He didn't laugh. He sat at the kitchen table and asked if we could talk. I said we could talk through the attorneys. 3 months later, I signed the final agreement with the development group. I structured it as a ground lease. I retained ownership of the land and they pay to build and operate on it. My grandfather had included a note in the folder about this option specifically. He had researched it. He had wanted me to consider it. A sale gives you money once. A lease gives you income for decades. I chose the lease. The monthly payment starts in full when the interchange opens. Until then, the existing storage tenants continue paying rent. I'm already profitable. Not by the numbers my husband imagined when he built his picture of success, but by mine. My daughters are doing well. The 4-year-old asked me recently why we moved to a different house. I said we needed more space to breathe. She accepted that the way kids accept things. Completely and immediately. On weekends, I sometimes drive by Route 9 on the way to pick them up from their dads. I watch the construction crews working on the interchange, the orange cones and the earth-moving equipment, and the new road taking shape from nothing. My grandfather used to say that the most valuable things take time to become what they're supposed to be. He said it about people, mostly. About patience. About being the kind of person who reads before they act. He gave me a storage unit on the edge of town, and half my family thought it was a joke. He gave me exactly what I was ready for. I keep thinking about the folding chair, not the offer letter, not the meeting with Kevin, not the number on the page that made my husband go quiet for the first time in years. I think about sitting in that cold metal chair under a buzzing shop light, holding a piece of paper my grandfather had written by hand, and feeling something settle inside me that I hadn't realized had been unsettled for a long time. There's a version of this story where I'm just lucky, where the right piece of land happened to end up with the right person at the right time. And maybe that's part of it. But I don't think that's all of it. My grandfather didn't leave me that property because I was his favorite. He left it to me because he watched me for 31 years and decided I was the one who would read before acting, who would sit with hard information and not panic, who would make a phone call to the county planning office instead of immediately calling a realtor. That's not luck. That's a lifetime of small choices that shaped the kind of person he trusted, with something that required patience. I've thought a lot about what it actually takes to hold on to something valuable when everyone around you is telling you it's worthless. It takes a certain kind of character, the kind that doesn't need external approval to know what's real. My grandfather had that. He turned down 3 separate offers on that property because he understood its value better than the people making the offers did. He wasn't stubborn, he was clear. And clarity like that comes from spending years doing the honest work of paying attention. What I've learned is that people will evaluate you based on what they can see. My husband saw a storage unit and calculated nothing. My brother saw the beach house and calculated square footage and rental income. Neither of them was looking at the same thing my grandfather was looking at when he made his decisions. He was looking at the person. He was asking which of his grandchildren had the steadiness to steward something that hadn't become itself yet. I don't think I was born with that steadiness. I think I built it, slowly, in all the ordinary moments no one was watching. Every time I chose to slow down when it would have been easier to react. Every time I kept going after something didn't work out the way I wanted. Every time I did the right thing in a situation where no one would have known if I hadn't. Those things compound. Not always in ways you can see, but they compound. My grandfather's note said I was the one who understood things quietly. I've carried that with me since the night I read it. Not as a compliment exactly, more as a description of something I'd always tried to be and hadn't always been sure was worth being. In a world that rewards the loud and the fast, quiet understanding can feel like a disadvantage. It isn't. When I drive past the construction on Route 9 now, I don't feel triumphant. I feel something closer to grateful. Grateful that someone saw me clearly. Grateful that I was far enough along in my own life to recognize what he gave me. Not just the land, but the letter. The proof that being patient and honest and careful is not the slow path. It's just a path that takes longer to show you where it was always going. Grandpa Walt knew. He just needed me to find out for myself.